Welcome back, survivor. If you can hear this, it means you're still alive. This is Jack's Nightmares, and this is your next story. The ST-43 prototype isn't a cure. People keep calling it that because they want it to be one. It's a chemical leash, not salvation. You take it on time, you stay conscious. You miss a dose, you'll either die or stop caring that you're still breathing. I bit into the ampule 20 minutes ago. It cracked between my molars like a stale vitamin. The taste is always the same. Metal and battery acid, like someone soaked copper in spoiled disinfectant. It hits the bloodstream fast. That's the point. I could feel my sinuses flare, a tight pulse behind the eyes, and the muscles in my hands twitching like they'd just remembered how to be alive. I've got maybe 9 hours before it starts to wear off. 12 if I'm lucky. 14 if I want to gamble with organ failure. And once the bleeding starts, if it starts, there's no hauling yourself back. That's the price. That's the deal. I zip up the outer layer of my courier jacket and step out of the Cleveland gate. Nothing beyond the checkpoint is part of the zone anymore. No one's watching past the barrier. The sector grid stops here. No cameras, no patrols, no drones. Just rot and silence. The air's dry, with that smell I can't describe to anyone who wasn't alive before. Not just dead things, dead cities. The absence of life you only get when nature tries to take back a concrete place and fails halfway through. Wind carries that smell like ash in winter. Everything sharp and brittle. Cleveland sector looks big on a map. In reality, it's just 12 square blocks of pre-war downtown, reinforced with sea cans and steel fencing, backed up by 2,000 volts and volunteers with rifles. No one uninfected goes out anymore. I do, because I have to. They call people like me maintained. Half-dead couriers who tested positive and didn't turn. The ST-43 keeps our blood neutral. That's what the medical brief says. Neutral, not clean. I'm still infected. The virus is in me, but it can't win unless I let it. It started when I was clearing a collapsed apartment lobby near Erie Street 2 winters ago. We thought the lower floors were stable. A 6-year-old had been seen in one of the upper windows. I wasn't even supposed to be on the breach team. I was logistics. But someone panicked. One guy froze. The formation collapsed. I took a bite just above the boot line, through a rip in the fabric. I didn't even know it happened until the evac. 3 hours later, I was sweating hard, not making sense, vision tunneling. They isolated me in one of the old underground water treatment cells. The Erie lab team was already trying ST-43 on chained infected. Then, someone had the bright idea to test it on a conscious human. I said yes because I didn't want to rot in a cage. First injection knocked me out cold, but I didn't turn. Since then, I've been their best field test. The safe zones aren't unified. That dream died 10 years ago. Cleveland holds maybe 1,500 people on paper, probably 1,200 in reality. Erie's bigger, a proper corridor hub. They've got working solar, water cycling, vetted researchers. But even there, the outer walls shift monthly depending on population collapse and walker migration. The infected. I hate that word because it makes people think of movie monsters. They aren't cinematic. They're just broken, mutated, starving. Some move slow, some twitch fast like spiders. Some do things that used to seem impossible. Scale fences, mimic sounds, watch you from rooftops without making a sound. They're learning. Not all of them, but some. And the ones that can't be predicted. That's why people like me still have jobs. The runners. We know how to watch for the changes. We've seen enough to read the difference between a starving stray and one of the new ones, what we call the threshold types. They hover on the edge of something else entirely. The virus acts different in them, but we don't have a name for it. Just a bad feeling. That's enough. My delivery this time is to Erie's North Quarantine Dome. They're short on ST-43. I've got 2 sealed ampules in the thigh pouch in a shock-insulated case. Blood serum, triple labeled. The kind they'll cut fingers off for in the field. I check my watch. It's a little past 9 in the morning. I've got until dusk if I want to avoid sleeping in open terrain. The plan is to hit the rail corridor south of the old Redbird station, cut through the tunnel junction, and use the cold channels to skirt the swamp line. That'll put me near the Erie outer perimeter by early afternoon. If I'm not ambushed, if no one's rerouted the scav lines, if the infected haven't massed again along the silos. I pass the outer checkpoint and descend the bank leading into the overrun warehouse sector. No gunfire in the distance. That's a good sign. It means the perimeter teams didn't get hit overnight. Last time I came through, they were still dragging bodies from the fences. My 9mm is loaded and suppressed. It won't save me in a crowd. It's just to clear a mistake or keep me alive long enough to disappear. You learn early not to think in terms of winning. It's all math. Distance, noise, line of sight, and when to disappear. This route used to be a trucking corridor. Now it's twisted rebar, shattered asphalt, and buildings half swallowed by ivy and water rot. The silence isn't peaceful. It's the kind that tells you something's already watching. I take it slow past the hollow bones of a burned-out loading dock. A decade ago, you could have driven straight through here with a truck full of clean water and no one would have noticed. Now, you'd be flanked by desperate civilians and worse. About 200 yards ahead, there's movement near an upturned city bus. I duck low, scan the angle. Something stirs behind the frame, limbs hanging wrong, one eye visible, drag marks in the dirt, no sudden rush. Shambler. I step wide, stay low, keep my breathing even. It twitches once, turns its head too far, then goes still again. Maybe it hasn't picked up my scent. Or maybe it's waiting. Some of them do that now. Sit still for hours, just waiting for motion. The sun breaks over the top of the rusted overpass, and I see my next landmark. A water tower split in half. White paint peeling down its side. That means I'm still en route. I don't stop. I don't rest. I don't let my mind drift. I think about who else out here might have taken ST-43 this morning. How many are running? How many are already dead? Or worse, how many ran too long and didn't make it back? There's no glory in being a maintained. You're disposable, a field tool. The only people who talk to us for more than a minute are the techs dosing our injections or the other half-deads limping between sectors with blood-splattered boots. I keep to the rail trench until the ridge tapers out near the freight yards. The map says the old service tunnel will spit me out by the grain silos east of the lakefront. My watch reads just after 9:30 in the morning. The serum is steady. My hands are steady. Jaw feels tight at the hinge. Nothing new. I swallow once to clear the taste of copper and move. Half the buildings between here and the shore have collapsed inward. The rest stand hollow, windows punched out, stairwells hanging like rib cages. I do not spend time staring. Keep distance, keep angles, listen for metal on concrete. That sound usually means someone is alive and careless, or something is trapped and angry. I descend the service stairs into the tunnel mouth. The humidity steps up and turns the air heavy. Masking drops in damp spaces, which means my scent will carry more than I want. I pull the scarf higher and switch the headlamp to the lowest setting. One step at a time, toe to heel, light down and away from my face to kill the glare. 200 feet in, the tunnel widens into a junction room. A maintenance cart rusts in place on a broken rail. Tools scattered where someone dropped them years ago. I let the light sweep once across the ceiling. No movement. No dangling arms. I cross fast and take the northern branch. The exit ladder is bolted to a concrete wall, slick with condensation. Top of the hatch is padlocked from the outside. Someone tried to keep something in, or out. I pull the bolt cutters from the side pouch, bite the lock and lean into it. It snaps without echo. I pause and listen. The silence holds. I ease the hatch open and squint into daylight. The lake wind slides in and clears the damp from my face. On the surface, the silos stand like a row of dead teeth, paint flaking, gulls perched, no human noise. I haul the pack through, close the hatch, and spin the broken lock back into place so it looks untouched from a distance. The shortcut kicks an hour off the timetable. If the shoreline stays workable, I can be at the Erie perimeter just after 3 in the afternoon. That would keep my dose window clean. I picture the clinic clock at Roswell Park in Buffalo and push the thought aside. First Erie, then Buffalo. Past the silos, a line of box trucks sits with doors open to the wind. I give each one a quick look from 10 yards, never center, always at an angle. Third truck has drag marks from the bed to the ground. The tracks are fresh enough to hold a shape. 2 people carried a heavy load out and turned toward the service road. I kneel and touch the impression with a gloved fingertip. The grit sticks damp. That means within a few hours. Could be salvage, could be a cooler, could be the wrong kind of cooler. I stand and set off along the service road with the pistol under the jacket at chest height. The lake sits grey and flat to my left. The wind pushes knots of trash down the shore. At a bend in the fence line, a shadow moves behind stacked pallets. I freeze and slide 2 steps sideways so I am not standing where the first look spotted me. My head turns slowly, never a snap. A man in a work jacket steps out with his hands up. His eyes keep dropping to my thigh pouch where the ampules ride. "Courier," he says, voice dry. "Cleveland?" "Runner," I say. "Why?" He looks past me toward the lake and back like he is checking for witnesses. Bridge ahead is stuffed with roamers. Underpass is wet. Take the pump road. It is clear for 1 mile. "Why help me?" He shrugs, palms still visible. My cousin is maintained. He works sewers in town. Dose is due tonight. I nod once. "Which pump road?" He points with 2 fingers and gives a set of turns I already know. He is not wrong. He is also not telling me everything. The way his eyes cut to the pouch means he is thinking about value. I do not call him a liar. I do not call him anything. I walk. The pump road peels off behind a chain-link fence sagging from years of salt. A sign reads municipal intake. The letters are bleached and peeling. Humidity climbs as the grade drops. I keep my breath shallow to keep from sucking in the damp stink. Water slap echoes up the shaft. I mark each step with the toe and roll forward heel soft to keep the noise down. At the bottom landing, a steel door sits wedged open by a broken valve housing. That is wrong. Intake doors stay closed. Always. I flick the headlamp to red and slide the beam through the gap. The room beyond holds 2 big screens half lowered into their slots. Water pushes through the gap with a steady sheet. The catwalk is slick. In the far corner, a body slumps against a rail. It is not moving. The clothes are wrong for a worker. It is a woman in a yellow rain jacket with the hood up. I step through, weight centered, blade hand free. The jacket shifts once, not a reflex. A small motion like she is awake and trying to make herself smaller. I stop 2 yards away and say low, "Runner, coming in." No answer. I edge close and tip the hood back with 2 fingers. Human, grey around the mouth from cold. Eyes track my face and then the pouch. She murmurs, "Coat was on the hook. I borrowed it. Do not tell the pump tech. He will take it back." "Why are you here?" I ask. "Waiting for a friend," she says. "He said he had something to sell to the lab. For cash. He is late." "What's something?" She swallows. "Serum. Leftovers. Good as new." My jaw locks another notch. I say, "If it is leftovers, it is dirty or stolen." She looks at the floor. "I need to eat." A metallic scrape scrapes across the upper landing and cuts both our sentences in half. I sweep the light that way and catch a shoe toe sliding back behind the doorframe. Someone is here, listening. I do not chase. Chasing here would end in a fall or a knife in a blind corner. I look back at the woman. "You can walk." "Yes." "Then go out the way I came. When you hit air, turn right. Keep the lake on your left. And do not stop until you see a silo line with 4 missing tops. That path is watched. Do not come back down here." She stands carefully and hands me the rain jacket. I push it back into her hands. "Keep it. The pump tech can fight me later." She whispers thanks and moves, shoes slipping once on the slick metal. I keep the light on the door until I hear her hand hit the banister above and stop shaking. The hidden watcher does not show again. Fine. He has whatever news he came for. I take one more glance around the intake, see no obvious sabotage, and back out the way I entered. When I hit open air, the wind feels like it belongs to another planet. Dry, clean enough. The lake beats itself against the breakwall with a dull thud. Time check, coming up on 11. I eat half a ration bar without tasting it and push hard along the service lane toward the outer highway. Traffic once meant life here. Now the highway is a platform for pack behavior. Sound bounces off the barriers and confuses the infected. They follow echoes and stack where the noise pools. Runners learn the pockets where the dead get confused and the lines where they flow like a herd. I angle into the wind to shove scent away from the densest pockets and hug the fence shadows. 50 yards ahead, a knot of roamers sways in the lee of a wrecked panel truck. I slow, count limbs, count heads, look for the fast twitch that betrays a fresh turn. Nothing lively. I keep to the far side of the median and pass with the shotgun angled down. One lifts its head toward the noise of my boot scuff. It takes a step, then another, and then the wind shifts and throws my scent away from its face. It forgets me. I do not forget it. Past Lorraine, the road drops and splits around a ruined way station. A 3-car pileup blocks the left fork. The right fork is clear but bends under a low overpass that always hums with trapped air. I slow to a stop 10 yards from the shadow and listen without breathing. There is a soft tap somewhere beyond the bend, rhythmic and wrong for wind. I take the pry bar from the side pocket and slide it along the concrete at toe height. If something lurches at the motion, I will feel the metal hit flesh before I see it. 30 seconds pass. Nothing. I commit and move through, eyes on the lower corners of the frame where hands like to reach. The space beyond holds a shallow collecting pool with an outlet drain. A dead man floats face down, with his jacket caught on a rebar hook. The tapping is the loose belt buckle hitting steel. No threat. I keep walking, and burn that image out of my head with the next 5 steps. By noon, I hit the long straight outside Vermilion, where the wind blasts across the open flat. Good for scent, bad for ears. The wind strips half the information you can normally use. I check my watch, check the timer on the dose schedule, and do the math out loud. 8 hours until I want to be behind a fence, 6 hours until I want to be at a dome, 2 hours of cushion if nothing goes wrong. Saying it keeps me honest. The bayfront line into Erie always aches with that brittle quiet. Houses caved in under their own roofs. Swing sets rusted into a leaning shape. Boats racked on trailers, never hauled to water. The first outer sentry post is a welded box painted blue with a steel plate window. I hear a whistle behind the slit. Security watching. I keep my hands visible and point east to show my route. A gloved hand tips once. Good. The human part still functions. I angle down toward Presque Isle because the harbour warehouse sits under the protection of the fish plant's generators, and that means cold storage and a friendly door if needed. The side road is pocked with holes, but passable. 10 minutes into the turn, I catch motion under a marina ramp. A figure waves both arms and then pulls them in tight like he changed his mind about making noise. I close distance, and the shape resolves into a teenager with a wool cap pulled low and a broken radio hanging from a lanyard. "Courier?" he asks. "From Cleveland?" I nod once, running to Buffalo by way of the fish house. He jerks a thumb over his shoulder. They took Julia, Dona Julia. 2 men in dock coats. Third had a cooler. They used a skiff. They went under the bridge toward the sail slips. "How long?" I ask. "Hour, maybe less. I tried the radio. It is dead." I know the name. AB High Priority. The labs keep lists in coffee-stained folders. I do not argue. The choice is simple. Ignore this and let the ring keep a human like a water barrel, or burn 20 minutes and try to fix it. My schedule tightens against my ribs anyway, so I pick the only choice I can live with. "Walk me in," I say. "You do not run. You do not talk unless I ask." He nods and steps off the curb like his legs just remembered how. We follow the pier line, duck under a half-rolled canvas awning, and cross a deck that lists toward the water. The slips ahead are stacked with sailboats, masts bare, lines slapping. We move between fiberglass hulls with the shotgun at a low ready. Damp air wraps the docks. Masking is worse here. Every breath tastes like algae and diesel. I use mirrored glass on a stick to peek the next angle. Second slip on the left holds a tarp that sags in the middle and drips. A pair of boots sticks out at the far end, heels braced against a cleat. A low voice counts seconds like a habit. No laughter, no jokes. Workmen, not raiders. I put the mirror away and mouth 2 words to the kid. Back, quiet. He folds behind the piling and presses both hands flat against the wood. I step onto the slip and let my steps match the rhythm of the man's counting. That buys me a second before the brain registers an extra sound. At the tarp edge, I bend, hook the pry bar under the canvas, and flip it off in one motion. A woman lies with her wrists bound to a railing, a tourniquet around her upper arm, skin blanched. A man with a needle kit looks up the way a man looks at a dropped wrench, not the way a man looks at a surprise. He reaches for the cooler, and not the knife. Wrong choice for him. I plant the pry bar across his forearm and shove. He stumbles, hits the dock rail, tips backward, and splashes into the water. The second man grabs for the donor's ankles. I catch his collar with my left hand and slam his shoulder into the cleat. The breath leaves him in a wet grunt. He collapses to his knees. I pull the knife on my belt and cut the tourniquet loose while my eyes watch the water for the head to reappear. The woman sucks air like someone dropped a weight off her chest. Her eyes pin me, then slide to the cooler. I nod once to tell her I understand. The man in the water claws at the dock. His fingers appear, white and tight. I step down hard on the wrist and feel joints grind under my boot. He yelps and slides under again. The teenager lunges in and grabs the donor's wrists, freeing them from the rope. I toss the rope into the water behind us. The second man tries to rise. I push his head against the plank and keep it there until he stops kicking. I do not drown him. I keep him just shy, and then let him suck breath like it is valuable. Which it is, and that memory will keep him from being brave for the next hour. Up, I tell the donor. Fish house, now. She stands with both hands on the rail for balance. I can walk. Good, move. We put the kid in the middle and step fast back across the decks. The donor keeps pace. Behind us, the man in the water drags himself onto the dock and curses in a small voice, afraid to raise it. I do not turn. Noise makes packs. We clear the marina and duck into the alley that feeds the fish plant loading dock. At the dock door, a guard in a padded coat lifts a hand and takes one look at Julia's arm. He waves us through and hits a buzzer. Inside smells like bleach and old brine. Cold air rolls over us from an open room where racks of steel tables sit empty. I hand the donor to a woman in a hairnet who does not ask questions. She leads Julia toward the back where the clinic pulled power for a small observation space. The kid leans on a wall and stares hard at the concrete, like he believes it might stare back with answers. I touch his shoulder once. You did right. He nods and rubs his face with both hands. I thought she was gone. I did not know what to do. You called out. That is what to do, I say. Go home. Tell whoever waits for you that she is alive. Tell them not to hunt the men at the docks. That will get more people hurt. He swallows hard and nods again. What about you? I keep moving. I stash one algae sample and a water vial in the plant's cold locker, with a handwritten note that lists my name and the time. Insurance against a bad turn ahead. I keep the other jars in the pack and step back into the daylight. My watch reads just past 1. Dose timer taps a silent reminder on my wrist at the 16-hour warning for later. I acknowledge it by tapping the bezel. I have room if the road behaves. Out of the fish plant, I skirt the wastewater intake gallery to pick up a cold chain cart that Erie promised runners months ago. It is a simple insulated dolly with rubber tires that do not squeal on concrete. The intake gallery hums louder than I like. Pipes sweat. The door sticks and then gives with a groan that turns into an echo in the tunnels. I wince, stop, and listen. The pause after any loud noise tells you if you just rang a dinner bell. The first answer is silence, then a low scrape, and another, like bare feet on wet steel. I misjudge my luck by a count of 3. 6 dormants are stacked in a heap in the corner near the ladder. The top one turns its face toward me without lifting its head. Its mouth moves slow, like chewing. The heap shifts one body at a time until 3 faces point at me and 3 do not. Half aware. High humidity ruins masking. I back 3 steps and slide the foam sealant from my belt. Thick white line across the lower door gap to my right. A wrench from the cart pocket arcs down the tunnel and clatters off a sump grate. The faces turn toward the sound. The heap squirms. I cross to the far side in 4 steady steps, not fast, not slow, and put 2 machete strikes into 2 skulls that lifted the highest. The bodies fold into the heap and pin the third. The other 3 get stuck under the weight and claw without moving forward. I pull the cart through the door, seal 2 inches of foam behind me, and keep walking. No shots, no shouting. My breathing is louder than anything else in the tunnel. Water pushes knee-high at the exit. I keep the jars above belt height with one hand and guide the cart with the other. The rubber wheels remain quiet. My toes find the ladder rungs and I haul myself up into the afternoon air. My shirt sticks to my back. The wind takes the sweat off me in seconds. I breathe in a long noseful like a man who just crawled out of a swimming pool and pretend I do not notice the tremor in my fingers. I set the cart on the asphalt and lock the wheels. The road to Buffalo yawns east past a tangle of docks and chain link. No gunfire, no sirens. The silence of a city that works now only in pockets. On my way out of Erie proper, I cut behind a warehouse row and almost walk into a bad handoff. A kid I saw in Cleveland 2 hours after dawn is here with a cooler and a hard face. Unmarked box truck. 2 men waiting in the shadow of a loading dock awning. The kid flips the lid of the cooler for a half second and closes it. No cereals on the vials. Just amber glass with silver caps. The smell that slips out is wrong, sharp and sweet in a way that does not belong in any clean room. I step into the open and let my shadow fall across their hands. Box open, I say. The kid jumps like someone hit him with a wire. The older man lifts his hands slow. Ease up, he says, and the voice is too smooth for a dock rat. Just supplies. Open the box. The kid glances at the older man. The man shrugs and smiles at me without moving the rest of his face. The kid pops the lid again. I reach in and take 2 vials. These are mine, I say, and slide them into a sterile pouch in my cargo pocket. Tell your boss that any bottle he wants to move needs a cereal, a chain, and an escort. Otherwise, I take it and I take his freezer next. You have no authority here, the smooth one says. I have a radio and a name, I say. That is enough. The kid's face has gone the color of paper. He licks his lips and stares at the ground. I do not want trouble, he says. He says it to his shoes, not to me. You already have it, I tell him, and back out without turning. If the smooth one moves for a weapon, he will have to move through the kid to get a clear angle. He will not. The kid matters to him. That is the only reason deals like this happen in daylight. Once I am 2 corners away, I key the radio and give a clean, calm report to Cleveland Control. Suspected cut serum handoff at Erie Warehouse Row. 2 vials seized for assay. Faces described. Vehicle type described. Direction unknown. The operator acknowledges and asks if I intend to hold. Negative, I say. I run. Between Northeast and Ripley, the road dips under an overpass that always collects water and broken cars. Today is worse. A compact car sits nose into the flood with the driver's door open. A man slumps over the wheel. The back of his neck shows a puncture that is too neat for a bite. Syringe mark. He is maintained. There is a dose timer on his wrist blinking a dead red. I slide the pack off and approach with my pistol loose. He lifts his head 1 inch, eyes glassy. His lips form a word that might be help and might be water. I check his pupils with a finger light. They respond, but slow. I check his thigh pouch. No spare. I check the center console. Empty. I check his pockets. Nothing. He is overdue by 2 hours at least. The drift will come fast if it comes. My spare sits in my belt kit, labeled for emergencies like this. I do not want to burn it. I do not want to be that kind of generous today. Generosity costs bone and time. I also do not want to look at this man in a mirror tonight and think about what I did not do. Hold still, I say, and he tries to nod. I set the restraint strap across his chest and clip it to the seat frame so he does not thrash if the serum hits hard. I clean the injection site with a sterile swab and give him half the dose. Half will pull him back enough to walk and keep most of my safety margin intact. I document the time and the half dose on the radio so the record exists when someone asks later who did what. His blink rate changes after 30 seconds. His eyes find my face and hold it. Timer broke, he whispers. Long shift. I thought I had another hour. You have 10 minutes to be on your feet, I say. We are moving. He nods once. He is embarrassed more than anything. I know that look. He feels like a tool that failed. I take the strap off and help him out of the seat. He stumbles, catches himself with both hands on the door frame, and then stands straight. We walk the car out together with the brake off and the wheel straight so the road drains do not eat it completely. He breathes hard through his nose and quiets his mouth. Good discipline. I like him better by the second. Name, I ask him. Ali, he says, maintained climber out of Girard. Isaac, I say, runner out of Cleveland. You are with me as far as Dunkirk. Then you peel to the nearest clinic and dose properly. Copy, he says. He says it like a radio man. Clear, no extra words. We push east until the road pinches to one lane, where the water bit a chunk of shoulder away. A farm barge sits tied at a makeshift ramp under a service bridge. Two men in canvas coats and rubber boots are loading grape crates onto a deck that looks like it floated through 3 centuries to get here. One of them sees us and lifts his chin. He recognizes my jacket. We worked a tow last fall when the packers learned to shadow the highway. Bridge ahead is not friendly, he calls. Pack is thick by the sound wall. We need a short slide east, I say. 2 miles would make it easy. He grins without humor. 2 miles is the toll. He taps an empty crate. Load those with whatever trash you have. We need weight even if it is useless. Wind is sloppy. We stack the deck with broken pallets and a few lengths of pipe from the ramp. Ali ties off the car to a post with a line so it does not drift into the drainage. The captain throws us a plank, and we drive the small dolly and our packs up in one careful shove. The barge shivers when the weight shifts. I feel the deck under my boots talk through the wood. Not poetry, just information. Do not jump, do not run, do not all move at once. The captain pushes off with a pole and lets the current grab the hull. The engine is an old outboard that coughs and then finds a steady stumble. We slip along the breakwater with the wind slant. 2 roamers at the far end of the rocks lift their faces toward us. The first steps into the shallows and then catches a boot in a crack and goes down with a splash that sounds louder than it is. The second lifts its arms and mouths nothing I can hear. The captain flips a bucket of fish waste off the stern into the cross-current. The wet stink rips down the water and steals the attention like a magnet steals shavings. Both roamers turn and wade toward the smell. The captain keeps his eyes on the bow and his hands light on the tiller. He has done this too many times to treat it like anything but an errand. Ali leans on the rail with his elbows and looks at my belt where the spare once sat. He does not speak. He looks, nods, and looks away. I nod back. We do not belabor it. Kindness is rationed. Today he got a half share. We make the far ramp at a slow angle and thump into place with a teeth-rattling jolt. The captain waves us off with a half smile and no charge. He got weight. He got help lashing his crates. He will take payment in gossip later because gossip gets you through winter. We pull the dolly up the planks and move back to asphalt. Buffalo's outer harbor sits behind slung chains of fencing and the skeletons of projects that never finished. The canal lock near the old grain elevators guards a shortcut into the inner routes. When we round the bend to the lock house, 2 men in orange vests stand at the rail acting like inspectors. One holds a short rifle with the muzzle down, but the hands wrong on the grip. The other flips a clipboard without reading it. The lock operator stands behind a window, with his hands up and his mouth tight. I clock the vests, the muzzle discipline that is not discipline at all, and the set of the operator's jaw. I do not have time for a firefight. I need the jars to stay cold. I need the lock to stay unbroken. I need the man inside to walk away with both hands. I stop 20 feet out, lift the cooler so the men see it and say steady, "Courier, medical cargo, passing through to the lab." Vest with the rifle grins. "Inspection," he says. He lifts the barrel 2 inches. He wants a reaction. He will not get the one he expects. I set the cooler on the ground, step behind the bar of the lock rail, and use the steel as a barrier between my legs and his nonsense. Then inspect the paperwork, I say. From there, with that barrel lower. He chuckles like a boy in a bad movie. The clipboard man checks the operator for cues. The operator stares at me, then shifts his eyes to the wheel that runs the lock gate, and then back to me. He is telling me something simple. Do not break my wheels. I nod once to the window, then lift the cooler and start backing along the rail. The rifleman steps the wrong direction and gives me a lane. The clipboard man slides half a pace to block the door and forgets his feet. The gap opens at the nose of his boot. I step into that space, set the cooler into the van, and slam the door with the tail swing pointed into the rifleman's shins. He jumps back without lifting the barrel, which is the right choice for him, and the only one that keeps him breathing. I drop into the driver's seat and reverse into their van hard enough to crumple the bumper and twist it off the lockhouse steps. The operator swears inside the glass, and then laughs once like a tire valved at last. I pull forward, turn the wheel, and put the nose of my van into the clean lane that opens when foolish men forget how to stand. Ali braces his hand on the dash and then on the door and stays quiet. He knows better than to narrate the obvious. The radio hisses. Buffalo control, female voice, tight and crisp. Runner, identify cargo and intent. Cofactor jars 2, water sample 1, donor packets 3, arrival in 10, I say. Copy, gate is open, lab is primed, she says. I picture the room with the stainless tables and the harsh lights, and the faces that look like work, not news. I keep the picture small because the road still needs most of my brain. We swing through the outer chain and break under a stuttering floodlight. 2 guards glance at us, see the jacket, and wave us toward the annex with the reinforced door. I throw the van into park and grab the cooler. A nurse in a clean coat meets me at the threshold with a thermometer strip and a hard expression that softens by a millimeter when the readout flashes green. Intake, she says. Here. We step into the cold room. The air burns the inside of my nose clean of the canal stink. The trial lead waits with a tray and a pen. She is the kind of doctor who does not waste sentences on comfort. I like her because of that. Jars, she says. I set them on the tray. Water sample, she says. I hand it over. Paper, she says. I slap the donor packet pouch onto the table. Extra, I say, and place 2 amber vials and a stack of camera photos down. Cut serum from the Erie row. Drift pattern will match the Hampton Roads mess. She does not blink. She does not ask where I got them. She nods once like someone lined up a shot, and she needed only a finger to finish it. We will run it now, she says, and passes the vials to a tech without looking away from me. You need a dose room. Timer says yes, I say. My mouth is dry. My vision has a halo that I do not mention. I hate that word for what it suggests, but it is simple. I am late into my window and the jaw hinge has started to chatter. I keep my hands flat on the steel and count the small holes in the table to keep my head steady. The nurse peels a new cartridge from a sterile pack and hands me a cup of water. Under the tongue, she says. Do not swallow for 10 seconds, then down. I do not argue. The serum tastes like it always tastes, and I try not to think of batteries. The water washes the taste into the throat and the chest eases a notch. My hands settle. The holes in the table stop jumping. Ali sits on a bench near the door with his hands folded. The nurse points at him. You too. He lifts both palms like a man who is caught stealing. Half dose in the field, he says. From him. She nods once. We will top you up. Then you lie down for 15 minutes so I can watch your eyes. He opens his mouth like he wants to argue about the 15 and then shuts it. He knows the drill. He knows the cost of pride in a room like this. He takes the dose and stares at the floor like the tile contains instructions on how to stand properly. The trial lead returns and places a printout beside my elbow. She taps the line that matters. Drift signature matches the cut pattern we flagged 3 months ago. The ring is moving again. Your photos give us faces. Your vials give us proof. Presque Isle donor, I say. Julia. 2 men tried a dockside draw. Is she alive? The lead asks. She is, I say. Fish house took her. Good, she says. And the word sounds like a mechanical fact, not an emotion. That is how you survive in a lab in this world. Her jaw flexes, and she nods to a tech who is already typing a summary into a battered terminal. We will transmit the pattern to the corridors. We will tag the faces and the garage address you scrawled on the photo. Lockhouse at the canal has 2 fools in vests pretending to be inspectors, I say. The operator is tired. Someone should bring him a sandwich. She almost smiles at that, and then does not. We will send someone, she says. Sit. I sit, because that is what you do when someone who knows more than you tells you to sit. I count the breaths and the seconds and the small dimples on the steel, and then I stop counting because the room stops tilting on its axis and returns to the level it was when I walked in. The dose works fast when your body still remembers how to obey instruction. The West Relay operator crackles in on the wall radio by the desk and asks for a confirmation code on a drift match tied to an earlier seizure in Hampton Roads. The trial lead reads a string of numbers in a voice that could cut steel. The operator repeats them back and adds, Courier Isaiah Calder listed for delivery and evidence. I almost correct her out of habit and then decide I do not care what the voice writes in her book tonight. I will be back on the road in the morning, and names mean less out there than times. Ali dozes with his head against the wall in that light sleep that maintained Learn. The nurse flicks his eyelid with a finger and watches the pupil track. She nods, covers him with a thin blanket like she has done this 1,000 times, and moves on. She returns to me and hands me a plastic cup with broth that smells like boiled bones and onions. I drink it in 2 swallows and feel the heat spread through trips of muscle that forgot what relaxed felt like. I file the chain of custody forms with the lead. My handwriting looks like a person who has been hit twice on the same day and does not want to admit it. She does not comment. She slides a copy of the drift signature into the pouch with the photos and seals the bag. Carry this back to Cleveland, she says. Let the checkpoint hang a printout in the guard room. Some things do not change because the radio hums. I stand, roll my shoulders, and feel the jacket sit right again. The edge is gone from my fingertips. The world looks harsh and clean the way you want it to look after a day like this. The lead watches me like a mechanic looking at a truck that just finished a long haul. You done for the night? She asks. 2 hours of sleep, I say. Then Erie again. The donor will want a statement when her head stops buzzing. I will be there to take it so you get a clean chain. Then I run home. She shakes her head at the word home. Not because she is mocking me, but because the word does not mean what it used to mean to anyone in a coat like hers. Your cot is in the corner, she says. Do not argue about the blanket. You earned it. I do what I am told for once, and let the blanket be a blanket. I lie on my side with my back to the wall and my face to the room because the habit of 20 years will not let me sleep without a view of the door. The sound of the lab working becomes the sound of a city street before the fall if you let your brain loosen its grip. Shoes on tile, paper on metal, a cough into a sleeve. A chair leg moved an inch and then settled. I close my eyes and do not dream. Dreaming is for rooms without fluorescent lights and men with clipboards. I wake before my timer nags me. The room tells me it is nearly dawn because the air is colder and the tech's coffee smells stronger. Ali is already up, sitting straight with his boots laced and his jacket zipped. We nod at each other like we completed a job together. We did. At the annex door, the nurse hands me a small bundle. Sandwich for the lockman, she says. You talked him up. Now feed him. I will, I say, and tuck the bundle into my pack. The lead gives me a small plastic card with a number etched into it by a scratching pen. If you find the garage, she says, do not open the freezer. Call this. We will come with the right hands and the right masks. Copy, I say. I do not say that I already opened one freezer yesterday and felt fine about it. Her way is better. Her way keeps more people alive longer. I leave the annex and blink into a light that feels honest. The lockman at the canal looks worse in mourning than he did last night. The vests are gone. The window is open to the air, and the room behind him smells like oil and clean rags. He looks at me like a man who expects trouble and sees only a sandwich. I hand it to him and watch his face try to decide between pride and hunger. Hunger wins. Good. Pride kills men on quiet mornings. Busy night, he says with a mouth half full. Busy year, I say. Mind if I walk your gear? I nod at the wheel and the gear train. He shrugs and steps aside. Be my guest. I run my fingers along the chain and the cogs and look for metal filings that would spell a future breakdown. Clean enough. The vests did not mess anything up because they were not here to break. They were here to posture for a ring chief who wanted a report that a courier looked nervous. I did not give him the nervous. By the time I swing west toward Erie again, my body knows the serum is solid. The sky carries a split ribbon of cloud that puts the sun behind a veil and gives me a day fit for goggles without pain. The road looks half as mean when the light is not punching your eyes. I push the pace without burning the margin. Presque Isle looks emptied in the early hour. The fish plant holds the quiet like a church that remembers voices. The guard at the door lifts his hand. I answer with the same small tilt. Inside, Julia sits on a chair with a bandage on her arm and a cup of tea in her hands. The kid from the dock stands behind her with his jaw set like he has decided to be older. She sees me and lifts the cup half an inch. You want a statement, she says. Not a question, more a resignation. If you are ready, I say. She gives me the names she heard. The shape of the cooler, the smell from the vials, the peculiar way one man spoke like each word was a piece of fruit he was setting in a row. She remembers the boat's registration numbers faded and missing a digit. She remembers a cut on the taller man's left ear. She remembers the teen with the broken radio yelling until his voice cracked. She does not remember fear, but I do not push for that. I write the facts and nothing else, and have her sign with a hand that shakes twice and then steadies. I tuck the paper into the pouch with a second copy and thank her for being alive. You going to hunt them? She asks. No, I say. I am going to tell people who can do more than I can, where to stand and when to move. She nods. Her mouth goes flat. She is disappointed and relieved in the same breath. It is a common expression in this world. I shake the kid's hand, tell him to keep the radio because sometimes a box of wires is braver than a loaded gun, and step back into air that smells like frost and diesel. The drive to Cleveland runs cleaner, because the road grew familiar in the last 20 hours, and familiarity shaves off stupid. I roll past the places where I almost made mistakes and do not make them again. The overpass where the compact car sat is empty now. The line where the pack gathered is scattered into the ditch. The silos squint into the wind. A gull rides an updraft and watches me like I might be dumb enough to drop something edible. I am not. At the sector gate, a young guard with acne under his chin asks for my chain papers with the kind of insistence that says he heard a lecture this morning and wants to show he listened. I hand him the pouch and let him read the words line by line out loud. He reddens halfway through and hands it back. Sorry, he says. Commander said we have to read everything twice. Commander is right, I say. Read it 3 times next time, then go home alive. The medical bay smells like bleach and coffee and heater air that did not get to touch a humidifier. A tech with a scar across his eyebrow takes my notes and my vials and hangs them on a hook over a desk that groans under more hooks and more files. Heard Buffalo found the drift, he says. They did, I say. Make a copy for the guardroom. He grins and clips one to a corkboard with a nail because the pins have all run away. Look at that, he says. Civilization. I shrug and let him have the joke. Civilizations are just rules that stack high enough to keep you from eating your neighbor. Today the rules feel strong. Tomorrow they might not. That is why I keep moving. Back at my bunk, I sit down hard and lace my fingers behind my neck and stare at the wall until the world settles into squares again. The serum keeps the infection quiet. The infection keeps the hunger down. The work keeps my head from turning into a box full of loose glass. The day went the way it needed to go. A donor lived. A ring blinked. A lab got its jars. A man with a lock ate a sandwich. My hands stopped shaking. I set the timer for my next dose and close my eyes. The room hums in the dull way that says the power grid is not happy but not angry either. I sleep without dreams and wake to the sound of boots in the hall and the smell of something almost like bread. There is no glory in being maintained. I have said that before, and I will say it again. There is weight though. You carry it because no one else can, or because no one else wants to. That is the shape of this world now. We measure days by what arrives cold and what arrives on time. The radio clicks at 9 with a message from the West operator. Drift bulletin received across corridors. Hampton Roads confirms seizures that match evidence. Erie Council requests coordinated seizure at Northeast address this evening. Courier presence optional. I thumb the mic and answer. Optional means I go. I check the map for the garage block, count the turns, and check the batteries in my headlamp twice. I pull a fresh restraint strap and an extra foam can. I do not take the machete today because the last one split at the hilt, and I do not trust the replacement yet. I take the pry bar and the short shotgun and 2 magazines for the 9mm, and nothing else that rattles. On the way out, I pass the board where someone pinned a copy of the drift printout between a map of donor routes and a hand-drawn cartoon of a roamer falling into a ditch. A kid from the guard shift stands staring at the printout with his mouth set. I tap the corner with a finger. If you smell that sweet, I say, call a tech. Do not guess. He nods and writes the instruction on his wrist with a pen. Do not guess, he says, like he is practicing a new language. He is. It is called living. The seizure at Northeast is clean because the council sent men who understand quiet. We park 2 blocks out, walk in with soft soles, and cut the garage lock the way I cut the last one. The freezer hums behind the wall like a guilty thing. The lead auditor whispers the last 4 digits of the number on my Buffalo card, and I whisper the first 4 back. That is how you tell someone you are not here to ruin his day. We take photos. We log the vials. We do not open the jars. We back out with the whole box humming and frosted, and wheel it into a truck with cold packs pre-staged. The only raised voice happens when a neighbor yells about a parking space, and a council guard closes his eyes and hands over a paper with a stamp and a signature, and a promise to fix a fence. It is not a fight. It is civilization again, in the smallest form. A complaint, a piece of paper, and a fence that might get fixed. I do not stay for the hearing. I do not need to watch a man in a clean jacket say he did not know what he signed, and then watch him sign another paper that says he will haul boxes under a guard's eye for 6 months. That is not my job. My job is to keep the road clear of lies and cold things warm enough to matter when they reach a room with lights. I am back at the Cleveland gate by midnight. The supervisor on duty hands me a mug and says nothing because his throat is raw from calling shifts all day. I say nothing because words cost calories. He pats my shoulder and I walk past him and sit on the concrete by the fence where the wind whistles and the sea breathes and the city pretends it is asleep. Some nights the infected press the fence and scratch until their nails tear off. Some nights they do not show at all. Tonight they drift in 1s and 2s along the edge like lost dogs sniffing a grill that never hits flame. An older woman in a blanket sits 4 yards away from me with a cup in her hands and watches the shadows move. My son is in there, she says, and points at the dark. He is maintained. He climbs into tunnels to map gas lines. He tells me not to wait up, but I do anyway. Must be a good kid, I say. He is, she says. He will come back when the machine says he can. I do not tell her that machines do not decide who comes back. Decisions stacked on decisions do. Right turns. Gentle hands. Dose windows hit on time. A sandwich given to a tired lockman who might otherwise look the wrong way at the wrong moment. I just nod and say, good. The night slides by without a scream, which counts as a gift now. I dose on time. I sleep for an hour. I wake to the smell of diesel and someone frying onions near the mess line. The world keeps its ugly balance for one more spin. I check my pack for broken seams. I clean the suppressor with a rag so the carbon does not turn to glue. I write the names of the teen and the donor in a little book I never show anyone, so I can remember the times the road chose not to bite me. Tomorrow I will take another 2 jars and another pouch and run another line of concrete and water and silence. None of this is heroic. It is a grocery list with teeth. I have work. I have a leash that I feed on time. I have a face that the infected study and sometimes ignore because the wind blows right. That is enough for a person like me. If you want a moral to hang on this, use this one. Do not miss a dose. Do not break the chain. And when someone needs a hand, give the one you have. Even if it means your spare is gone. It will come back to you. Maybe not today. Maybe not here. But this world still does math. You get what you pay for, one way or another. I stand, pick up the pack, and walk the line once more before the sun climbs. Another day, another corridor, another cold room waiting with a pen and a tray. The jars will clink, the doors will buzz, the guards will read the paper twice out loud, and I will keep moving until someone smarter than me tells me to stop. And when that happens, I will hand him my card and my little book and say, keep the chain, feed the road, do not guess. Because there is no glory in being maintained. There is only the work and the fact that the work means people wake up under lights and children drink water without worms, and donors walk back through their doors with bandages and not toe tags. That is what the serum buys. That is what the road costs, and I am still willing to pay. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep the stories alive. For now, stay quiet, stay vigilant, and stay alive. Jack's Nightmares, signing off. Until next time, survivor.